Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Mindy with Mindy Eggen Design, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how I created this cozy fall card using some products from Fawn. To start out with, I am going to use the Winter Skies stamp set. This has some really cute images and sentiments on it, and even though it says Winter Sky, I'm going to be using it for my fall card. So I started off with stamping my image in these two bears with their scarf wrapped around each other. I stamped it on the Fawn white cardstock with the Fawn jet black ink, and that is Copic friendly. And then I'm starting off with my darkest color, putting in some shadow areas. That's E79 is my darkest, and then I'll blend out with E77 and then the lightest color E74. So for adding in my darker areas, I put them around areas of the scarf where I think there'd be casting a shadow on the body, and a little bit by the ears. The ears I would think would cast a little bit of a shadow. And then around the underside of the bear. I don't have a light source in mind. I just wanted to have some darker and lighter areas. So I really didn't have quite a rhyme or reason, except for around the clothing pieces was the only thing I really was consciously thinking of darker areas for. And then I did blend that out with the three colors all together, and I did go back just a little bit with the E77. For my second bear, I still wanted to keep it brown, but I just kind of chose a different shade. So I'm going to use E29 as the darkest color, and I added shadow areas under that scarf again, and then on the side of the body where the other bear is pressed up next to it, just because I would think that'd be casting a type of shadow. And then I'm blending out with E27, and then my lightest color as E25. And like I said, I really wasn't thinking of any light source in all of it. I just wanted to have the darker and lighter areas. And then for the muzzles, I did E30 and then just a little line of E35 right next to the face. What I did here is I decided to do some paper piecing for the scarf so they would have a decorative scarf. So I stamped the image again with the jet black ink onto this pattern paper, and this is from the Knit PIXIE Fall Paper Pack. I do have the 6x6 paper pack. And I'm just concerned with the scarf, so I'm adding in a little bit of shadow, which is the BG05. I'll blend out with BG02 and BG01. I wanted a little bit of shadow areas, but I didn't want to lose the pattern on the paper. And so just adding in a little bit there, deepening up the shadow just a little bit to show those in the creases of the scarf. Then next I will take these and just fussy cut around it. I'm actually cutting kind of on the black line, and I'm moving the paper, letting it turn in my fingertips with my left hand. Then I can go ahead and use the coordinating die, and I'm going to line this up with my bears, hold that in place with some Post-it note tape, and I can run that through my die cut machine. Then I'll be able to take my pattern paper scarf and just using some Fawn glue, I'll attach that right on top of the scarf that I left white on my image. And I can just line that up. Now, another thing you can do is if you have a black pen, you can go around the edges in case you had some white spots left, or just kind of fill that up a little bit better. For my background, I'm also using more pattern paper from the Knit PIXIE paper pack, and that's the fall collection. So my rectangle I cut 3.5 by 4.5, and I also have a piece there that I use the stitched hillside to create a hill. What I'm showing you here is actually the reverse stitched scallop rectangle window, mouthful, and I'm going to be using some pixie dust glitter cardstock. This is a beautiful glitter cardstock. Glitter does not come off. I can't say enough good things about it because I just love it. So this rectangle die is about 3.5 by 4.5, and I cut my rectangle with the glitter cardstock just a little bit bigger, so it's going to leave a border around the edge. And then I'm going to use the Thermal Web purple tape to hold that down and run that through my die cut machine. That held really well to the glitter cardstock, and you can see now I have this really awesome reverse scalloped border, and I left that little bit around the edge, so there is a little bit of stitching up there. And that is going to fit perfectly on top of the rectangle I cut from the pattern paper. The first thing I'll do is attach my hill because that's in the front of this pattern paper. So I'm just adding a little bit of Lawn Fawn glue to the bottom half of my frame. And using my tweezers, I'm just going to lay that down on top of my hillside. And I was trying to keep this card pretty simple. I didn't want to go overboard on it. I tend to go pretty overboard on my cards sometimes. So I was trying to keep this really simple, but I just could not help myself with using some foam tape. I just thought this hill would look really cute, popped up a little bit on the card. So I'm grabbing my Big Mama 3M foam tape, trimming off some there, and then I'm going to cut this down into some thin strips, and that's going to be just enough to go around the edge of my reversed scallop. So that's another reason to leave yourself a little bit of a border to use that reverse scallop frame. You could also just die cut it right out of a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cardstock, and that would leave you a lot of space around the edge. Totally up to you how you want to use it. So I'm just going around the edge of my entire border. And I do have a little collection of scrap pieces I just kind of put on top of that foam roll, that foam tape roll. And I'm just using some of those to fill in the areas. And I also want to put a piece down here on that stitched hillside just to make sure it's nice and even. Then I can go ahead and remove the backing on all of the foam tape. And using my tweezers, I'll add this to that pattern paper rectangle. So kind of a little scene here, but using pattern paper instead of any inks. And I did flip that over. I thought that was easier to line that up. And I could always trim off excess if there was anything hanging over. For my card base, I'm going to be using a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock. This is from the WOODGRAIN Neutrals collection. These are so gorgeous. I love the different colors of this wood grain. So I'm using that as my card base, and I'll go ahead and add my frame to the top of this right in the middle using the Lawn Fawn glue. So that's going to hold really well, and just centering that as best as I can. Just kind of eyeballing it, but I do have a grid mat there that I could have used. Then I'll come in and add the bears, and because my hill is popped up, I'm just going to put foam tape towards the top of the bears, and I'll put the liquid glue on the bottom half of the bears. That'll just keep them all nice and even, so when mailing this, it's not going to squish it and make it all uneven. And the cute little bears looking up. Next, for my sentiment, I'm going to be using this Simply Sentiment stamp set, or I'm sorry, Everyday Sentiments stamp set. And I wanted to make a get well card, so I'm using the sentiment Feel Better, and I'm going to heat emboss this onto some paper bag cardstock. So I just have a scrap piece of cardstock here that I put in my Misty, prepped it with an anti-static powder tool, and then I'll use the new Lawn Fawn clear ink, which is an embossing ink, so it's really great for either doing watermarks on your cards or for the heat embossing. And then just scooping up a little bit of the white embossing powder, sprinkling that off, and I can hit that with my heat tool. To die cut this out, I'm using the Simple Sentiments die to do this, and since that's longer than my sentiment, I'm going to line up one edge with my left hand side of the sentiment, so I'll hold that down with the Thermal Web purple tape. And I'm kind of going to customize this. I do this quite a bit when I have a sentiment that's smaller than my die. So I'm just going to hold that down, run that through the die cut machine. And then once I remove this, I'm going to take the die, and on the right hand side, I'm going to line it up next to the edge of the sentiment where I want it to have that flag part, and you'll be able to feel it kind of fits into place like a puzzle. And then you just hold that down again and run that through, and it's going to cut this perfect length of a die, or of the banner. So to finish it off, I'm just going to go ahead and put a strip of foam adhesive behind this to pop that up. and that will finish off the card. So I really hope you enjoyed today's card. This is taking a look at using some of the winter stamp sets as fall stamp sets. If you did enjoy this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. I really appreciate all the new subscribers that have been joining me lately. I hope you're enjoying the videos. Share with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you would like to see more videos from me, and hit the little bell notifications so that you're notified of when something new pops up. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.